The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me on this Monday evening. We have a jam-packed show for you tonight. I'm very happy to have everyone coming in real soon. But first, we've got two guests coming in. We'll introduce our first guest. Known for his extensive collection of Tennessee Titans jerseys and memorabilia, he's one of our favorite people that tweets in the Twittersphere. Let's bring in Preston Penn. Preston, welcome to the Power Hour. And we've lost Preston, so we'll try and get him in again. We're just having technical difficulties, apparently. And I think Preston's coming back in. Preston, and I think we've got him back. Preston, welcome to the Power Hour.
Appreciate you having me. We were lagged for a second. It stopped, and I was like, oh, crap, I got to get out back on. That's the last thing I want is for me to come in. And I'm like, got something like my face in this weird position. I'm just like waiting on you to, and I didn't realize I'm on camera.
It's no problem, man. These bugs happen. We just kind of work them out as we go. And it looks like our next guest is in. Joining us from Titans and Truth, it is the one and only, the Blue Enforcer, Chris. Chris, welcome to the Power Hour.
Man, glad to be here. Just trying to adjust my camera correctly, but glad to be a part of the show.
Just getting our adjustments in and everything. So, guys, it's great having you in tonight. Just a great panel of just experts and just Titans enthusiasts, and I love getting this in, especially when the news cycle's kind of slowing down, but we still got plenty to talk about. I mean, especially knowing that the rookie card shootings were this week, and definitely a lot of talk about that. So going along with those situations where we know it's going to be kind of a slow news week, so it's going to be hard to try and shake any kind of NFL news or Titans news for that matter to get us into that situation. It looks like Chris's phone tried to commit suicide.
Right. There we go. I think that's what I'm doing. Sorry, everybody.
That's fine. Got to work the bugs out. We'll work them out early, so no big deal. But it's great having everybody in. Welcome to the Power Hour, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. We've got top news hitting us on a little screen, and let's do it. So to start us out, beginning with the top part of our news, it appears that the Indianapolis Colts have decided, well, I guess St. Nick is worth a 2-year deal. So I guess along the lines for having somebody that's reliable in the system, having a Frank Reich reunion with one of his most best developed players, which I would say might be an understatement. Preston, I'll start with you on this one. Surprised that Indy made this signing?
In a way, yeah. I kind of came out of left field. I honestly didn't even remember he was a free agent, and all of a sudden, oh, he's with the Colts. I'm like, he's with the what? I thought it was a joke, and then I scrolled like, oh, this is actually legit. Okay, well, he wants to be a backup. I guess he's used to the kind of like the hero role as the backup to come in, and if Matt Ryan it gets hurt or whatever happens, I mean, you just never know. I mean, with him knowing the system, I mean, he could end up being the starter. You just never know. I mean, either way, I hope the Titans sweep him, but it'll be that makes it a little more interesting. That makes that quarterback room a little more interesting for sure.
And Chris, it's interesting. Like Preston said, you have a quarterback room that has guys that have Super Bowl experience, one of them a Super Bowl winner. Unfortunately for Nick Foles, his career just didn't take a lot of fruition, especially with a huge contract with Jacksonville that just kind of flooded the market for no apparent reason other than just getting a quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. This one I wasn't exactly expecting, but that definitely tells you, but it also tells you they have absolutely zero faith that Jacob Eason or Sam Ehlinger could learn under Matt Ryan and eventually be the quarterback of the future. So, I mean, this deal basically says, look, if something happens with Matt Ryan, I need a quarterback I can trust to go in there that can win a few games for us. And, Nick Foles maybe can fit the job. I mean, again, you mentioned that, in Jacksonville, he got the big deal to be the starting quarterback, and it just didn't pan out for him. But maybe this is, maybe this third chance or fourth chance, that we could call it, might actually be the lucky charm. So hopefully it's not, for Colts' sake. For our sake, I hope it's not. But we'll just have to wait and see. But obviously, it means Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger are not the answer as the backup quarterback.
God, how many teams has he been on now? I mean, it's been like a bunch, like the Rams, the Jags, the Chiefs, the Bears, the Eagles twice, now the Colts. I mean, I think that's everybody. That's a lot. I mean, I guess at some point you do kind of move as a quarterback, journeyman kind of guy. You do kind of move around. But the good thing for him is that as long as he keeps getting deals, he's still wanted, so he's got value. You know what I mean?
Nick Foles is definitely turning into the Ryan Fitzpatrick of the NFL world. But, Chris, I'll give you this question also. In the terms of a 2-year deal, knowing that Indy is trying to find some stability at the quarterback position, Matt Ryan definitely going to be the starter, no question about that. Is it just better to take a chance knowing that Ryan could go down with an injury?
It's a smart. I would have to say it's a smart move by the Colts because, again, I mean, Matt Ryan has proven he hasn't really just went down crazy with injuries that I know of. But, I mean, if that does happen where he does go down, I mean, Nick Foles, he knows Frank Reich very well, understands the system. Now, we have seen in the past with Indy, just because you know the system doesn't mean instant success a la Phillip Rivers. So we do have to take that into account as well. Just because he had that lucky run where he got that Super Bowl, that doesn't mean he's the be-all, end-all, and he's just the perfect answer as the backup quarterback. But it does tend to help. Just in case if Ryan goes down, I mean, I wouldn't be too scared if Nick Foles has to come in there in a game against the Titans or any team. I'm like, I wouldn't be too scared or concerned.
And I want to piggyback off Chris, too. I think it's a good point because them signing Nick Foles means that they believe that they're a contender, as they should. I mean, they won a few games. Well, losing to the Jaguars at the last game to miss the playoffs doesn't really help. But the fact that they were in position until that game means that they feel like that they have enough weapons to contend. And you're bringing in Nick Foles in case something does happen to Matt Ryan. And you want to have that veteran guy that, like Chris said, if you need someone to come in and win a couple games due to injury, that you do have that guy because you don't feel like you can contend with a Ehlinger or whoever else may be back there. I mean, Matt Ryan's got 55,000 plus passing yards career-wise, over 340 touchdowns. The guy has had a great career, and in a new system, there's no guarantees. So that is a really good safety net for them, I think. I hope it backfires as a Titans fan, but, I mean, it just wouldn't – I mean, it's just – it does make it interesting. I think it makes – they believe that they're going to contend because, for that reason, I think, bringing him in.
And that's a great point you bring up. And one thing that I do look at that Indy is sorely lacking with is just wide receivers. You have Pittman, you have Pierce that they drafted. Who's really going to be the number 3 guy? And you're having to rely on potentially a rookie to carry most of the load, and Pittman's still a little bit unproven. So do you see that this team's going to have to run pretty much for most of the season starting out? And Chris, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, and I wouldn't try to cut nobody off. And that's the thing. Doesn't it seem like the Colts are trying to emulate what the Titans do? They figure, well, let's run Jonathan Taylor into the ground as much as we possibly can because he's the guy that's going to take us to where we want to go. But here's also another thing that we also got to think about, too. That invincible offensive line that Indy used to be known as the last couple of years, it's not as invincible anymore. Quinn Nelson has dealt with injuries. He's not free of injury. They're having I believe they have 2 new tackles now, so they got to bring in. So right now, the Colts offensively, it could be a bit shaky. So, I know there's people thinking the Colts could catch the Titans and all, and the Colts have done some good things, but, I mean, by no means are the Colts just invincible. They have lost too.
And in addition, I mean, the weapons, there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, like we said, past Michael Pittman, you've got, I mean, Mike Strachan, you've got Alec Pierce, who's no guarantee he's a rookie. I mean, you look at, I mean, they've got Paris Campbell still, but then if you look at tight end, they've got Mo Alley Cox. I mean, nobody in the division is scared of Mo Alley Cox. I mean, at all. I mean, they don't have Jack Doyle anymore. You know, that Matt Ryan is best with a good tight end. I mean, most quarterbacks are, but Matt Ryan has always had that really good tight end for the most part, whether it was Kyle Pitts or Tony Gonzalez or whoever. I mean, now he doesn't have that safety net at tight end and limited receivers. They better, if they can't run the ball with a different offensive line, and because they sure may not be able to throw the ball, then they can't afford to even be one-dimensional because they're going to really struggle to move the ball, period, I think.
I agree. And I mean, that's, you know, and that's the thing about it. And, you know, they're thinking, well, Jonathan Taylor's going to put fear into other defenses. The Titans showed last year they're not afraid of Jonathan Taylor. The Titans did a very good job against Jonathan Taylor in 2 games. I don't believe Taylor had a 100-yard game against the Titan defense, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been one where he barely got 100, but I know one game I believe he only had like 60 yards, and the other maybe he had like 65, 70 yards or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Let's see. So he had 64 yards one game, and then the other game against us he had 70. Yeah, he didn't hit 100 against either one. He had 1 touchdown between the 2 games rushing wise, and I don't think he had He had 1 touchdown total. He didn't even have a receiving touchdown. He had 1 rushing touchdown, and in 2 games he had 134. I suck at math. 70, 64. It's 134 total in 2 games. That's pretty good. I mean, for a team that, I mean, when you look at the defensive struggles in 2020, my God, I mean, I don't know that they would have stopped us 3 and 8 of our friends. I mean, it was rough. I mean, it was concerning, and then for them to come in 2021 and just to completely flip the script and to be able to stop the run and to cover, and I mean, it's astounding, and to be able to stop the leading rusher, hold them in 2 games to under 150 yards total between both games and 1 touchdown. That is a great job, massively awesome job by Shane Bowen, Jim Schwartz, and everybody involved.
Yeah, definitely.
And the defense is definitely going to have their hands full with, or if ever Foles gets to the field, but we'll see how that goes as the season progresses. Hitting our next story, and of course I continue to bring Daniel Snyder up, and I hate bringing Daniel Snyder up for any reason, but he just continues to find ways for me to put him on the news. So it looks as if the NFL is starting to force their hand and find a way to exit Daniel Snyder out of his ownership position and potentially replace him with someone else. So, Preston, I'll start with you. I mean, let's face it, Daniel Snyder's just basically been a laughingstock since he's become in the league. The Washington Commanders have definitely been at the bottom of the barrel. They just seem to have no hope, no ray of sunshine, nothing whatsoever to make them look positive or in a positive light. Is it going to come down to 24 owners voting Daniel Snyder out, and will it happen?
That's a tough question. I mean, I don't know his relationship with some of the other owners, but if they feel like that he's that much of a problem child, I could see that. I mean, to be named the Commanders is bad enough anyway. It sounds like we're talking about a USFL team. I keep forgetting that it's when you say Commanders, I'm like, Commanders. Oh, yes, an NFL team now. They've been the same. They've been that way for a while. Like, I mean, kind of like Dallas a lot, minus the fact that Dallas actually won. Well, I mean, Washington did also, but like, just the fact that they would throw out that money at whoever and bringing in veterans like Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith. I mean, there's those guys that they would throw massive contracts to when they were way past their prime. And then
Daniel Snyder's the kind of – I'm sorry, Daniel Snyder is – sorry, buddy.
No, you're good.
Daniel Snyder's the kind of guy that, like, is like a 14-year-old that has, like, a poster up in his room, and that's the guy that he signs. That's generally his signings. Pretty
much. And and then surprised that it doesn't work out. Like, oh, my God, I can't believe we signed Bruce Smith and it didn't work out. He's 40 years old, and he has almost 200 sacks for his career, but my God, I mean, I can't believe at 40 he's not doing the same thing he did at 25. What's wrong with him? I mean, it is surprising, and the whole thing is just goofy anyway. I mean, I don't know anything would surprise me that they would vote him out or not vote him out. But my question is, if they get sold, who buys them? I think that's the part that is interesting, because who comes in and buys them, and then what do they do at that point? Do they try to change the name again? Do they try to, I mean, just complete overhaul either way? But it's just, the whole thing's going to be interesting if that happens. I kind of hope it does, because it's not the Titans.
And Chris, I mean, Preston brings up a good point, and I'll lead with that question. Who do you think could be a potential front runner if Daniel Snyder's forced to sell the team?
That is a good question. And I'm, honestly, I don't have enough knowledge on this particular situation, so I don't want to lie to anybody. I mean, I do know a few Washington fans, one of my very best friends in particular, and she's probably as tired of Daniel Snyder as anybody, and doesn't really care for the Commander name. She still likes all hail the Redskins. So, but I mean, that is an excellent question. I know Fred Smith had put some money into Washington, because, I mean, a la FedEx Field was the name of the stadium. I mean, that could be maybe a possibility. I hope not, because I would think, be a part of the home team if that ever came to fruition. But I don't know. Washington, I mean, has had a very big fall from grace. I mean, in the 90s, they were dominant. So I think somebody's going to probably want to be like, I want to return Washington, the Commanders, to the Redskin glory days, take command, as they like their hashtag to be. But that is going to be interesting to see who might come out, and if that does go through, because, I mean, yeah, Daniel Snyder probably needs to go. Kind of like what the Clippers did with Sterling, getting him out. So, I mean, that's an excellent question. I don't know if somebody like a Bezos or, God forbid, Elon Musk comes in and just flaunts, $25 billion like it's nothing to buy a team or something like that. So that is going to be very interesting to see what names come out as potential candidates to own the team. That's going to be very interesting. But honestly, I really don't know, to be honest, who would come to mind first.
I mean,
Maybe Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, you brought up some good examples. I mean, Bezos, especially having some fingers in the NFL now, having Thursday Night Football rights, you think with that kind of money he would go in. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you start hearing Jay-Z's name pop up in some of these conversations.
It's not a bad idea. That's not a bad thought. Jay-Z. I mean, I wonder what Beyonce would have to say about that, but that would be very interesting.
I think with a group, if you invested in a group setting, I think, along those lines, they could break it up, and that's a very big potential right there.
Like the Dolphins did, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good example. But I do think, when you come to the point where you're holding money back from your fellow owners, that's very much right for you to be voted out of the league. That's a violation in my opinion. And I think along those lines, he's just consistently been in the news for all the wrong reasons. And the NFL can only take so much of it. And at this point, they just need to sever ties, move forward. It's the best thing for everything. And Washington fans are certainly holding their breath as the vote will go through soon.
And I think it really is the point of, you get Snyder out and you need to start fresh. You got a new name. You got a new name of the Washington Commanders. This is about to be the first season that the Commanders take the field as the Commanders. You probably want to wipe the slate clean and just start fresh, build a new legacy under the Commander name, get rid of any and everybody who, was under the Redskin name before, minus, some of the, lower people that's working in front office, and minus Ron Rivera. Well, I believe Rivera was put out anyway, with what he was battling and going through. But they probably want to start fresh, start new, new season, new name, new identity, start from there.
And fans can only hope that's what will happen going forward. Yeah. Moving on to our next piece of news. Doesn't look so sunny in New England, as the Patriots just don't look like they've got anybody lined up for their offensive coordinator position. And they have made 3 hires, one being Joe Judge, then you have Matt Patricia, and then, funny enough, Troy Brown was hired last year. But all 3 coaches have 0 offensive coordinating experience. So, leading to the question, what is Bill Belichick doing? And Preston, I'll let you start with that.
He's playing. He always plays chess, not checkers. I'm sure he's got something planned. I mean, a lot of times with teams like that, I mean, you have the head coach is calling the play anyway, so the offensive coordinator is just kind of like the de facto placeholder person, and that's happened. I mean, that seemed to be the case with us in 2020, which it didn't go well, and then they finally, give Bowen and Schwartz basically let Bowen run it, and then Schwartz comes in, and all of a sudden the defense is good. I mean, there's so many instances where the head coach is calling the plays one side of the ball, and the offensive coordinator, you really don't know what you're getting. I mean, we've seen coaches that then OCs get hired, and then all of a sudden they look inept, and it's like, well, then you figure out, oh, it was ex-head coach calling it the plays, not you. So then it makes you wonder what the plan is, because at some point you got to figure out. I mean, I guess Belichick can probably call offense. He's more of a defensive guy, I think, but just I don't know. It's going to be interesting because with OOC on staff, do they just? I don't know. That's going to be interesting. It's really it's weird.
And that's a good point you brought it up. And courtesy of NBSports.com, when asked that question, Belichick said, "I've called them and I haven't called them," he said, "and other people have called them and they haven't called them." So, classic Belichick answer. I don't know where he's going with that. So, really,
he knows exactly where he's going.
It's the perfect Belichickian answer that you could possibly come up with. I mean, we all know that Belichick is the judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to the Patriots, with the exception of the grand executioner being Robert Kraft. But other than that, besides that, he's second in command of that entire organization. Who's going to question Belichick? Not nobody. I mean, Belichick wants to do it all himself. He wants to run the defense, run the offense. He's a general manager. I mean, you don't trust nobody. And he's like, look, I trust only one person, and that's me.
But out of the names that have been named, and I mean, you could include Belichick with that, but who would be the best fit for the Patriots offense going forward, trying to replace Josh McDaniels?
Ooh.
And I would have to say just Troy Brown, just off the top of my head, because we felt the same way when Gerard Mayo was given control of the defense, and he did an outstanding job. So I don't think that's too far-fetched.
I could go with that. I could definitely go with that. I mean, even though he will probably have no experience, I mean, they need to eventually maybe bring Julian Edelman, whenever he calls it a career, maybe bring him in the fold or something like that. I mean, that's just an out-of-the-box type of idea. Maybe you get like a Julian Edelman or a Wes Welker, maybe to come in who, understands the Patriot way, understands the system, and could really be effective in that way. But that's just me spitballing as much as I hate the New England Patriots.
And Wes Welker's actually a pretty good example. I mean, I believe he's with the 49ers right now, so potentially he could hire him away if he wanted to.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if Joe Judge ended up being the guy that called the plays. I mean, but Belichick's quirky. He'll put whoever he wants wherever he wants, and I can see that. I mean, because he trusts Joe Judge. He has a lot of familiarity with him, and I don't know how long some of these other coaches like Ivan Fears, Vinny Sinceri. I know Vinny Sinceri's been there for a minute, but I mean, Joe Judge's got a lot of coaching experience. I could see that being the case, but Belichick, you just never know.
Right.
Patriots fans are going to hold their breath as they move on to the training camp. Hopefully, we'll have more answers by then. And on our next story, it appears that our Hard Knocks end-season team has been tapped, and that would be the Arizona Cardinals. They'll be doing their work like they did last year with the Indianapolis Colts, joining in November, and hopefully with some more intriguing stories going forward like they did with the Colts. But even right now, the Cardinals have their own intriguing story, as it seems that Kyler Murray has decided he will not be joining them for OTAs. So, yeah, they're already off to a great start. So, Chris, do you like the choice for the Hard Knocks tap here?
It's going to be very interesting to see how that works because, I mean, it depends on, it would have probably been much more entertaining if it was preseason going into the season, to see inside what's going on behind closed doors about this situation with Kyler Murray. But, that could pour into the season, as far as that is concerned. See how things work with him and D-Hop. And, with the defense, how do they go on without Chandler Jones now that he's gone to Vegas? You still got J.J. Watt there defensively. And, how do Arizona, bounce back from last year? Because we've seen, Arizona start off hot, and then they kind of crumble as the year goes on. And how interesting we're talking about Kyler Murray, and I have him now in Madden on the Titans as my starting quarterback. I traded Ryan Tannehill. Oh, God, I made a mistake on that one. So I'm trying to see how that's going to go. But it'll be very interesting to see how all of this does. If he does not have a contract, what is going to be happening inside the organization week to week as they prepare for games.
And Preston, another great point, and I'll give this question to you. A new concept that they're fooling around with the in-season version of Hard Knocks. It definitely looked like it affected the Colts going forward. So do you think that the Cardinals might be a little more worried about doing this year, that this could potentially snake bite them like it did at the end of last year?
Possibly. I would like to think they might have the mentality that happened to the Colts, but we're different. That's not going to happen to us. I would assume they probably think that's not going to happen to them. I guess if it does, then that ends up being the jinx, and nobody's going to want to do it next year. But it is kind of interesting. I do like this version because it's almost like the Last Chance U, where they go through the good part of the season, and you're almost getting like almost real time feedback, and it's great how. I mean, I think that part's good. As a fan and a consumer, it's great, but as a player, it's got to be miserable because you've got cameras around, especially if you're in a playoff race. You got these people, wanting to talk to you, and in addition to normal media responsibilities, you got people following you around with cameras. I mean, now they can go. Now people go back in the locker rooms this year. I mean, it's going to be. That's not for a team that's going to. I don't know if they're going to contend, but say they are contending, and then they fall apart. And they're distracted by this because, you got one guy that, some of these are going to love it because they're going to be on TV. It's like, oh, this is, I can be that funny guy like Dion, like for the Rams a couple years ago that had the great personality. And then somebody's going to want to be that guy. They may be trying too hard. And then it's not going to come across organically, and it's going to be goofy. And certain people are going to be pissed that other people are getting more camera time than they are if they're not a star player. I mean, they get, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, Kyler should get a lot of time, of course. But then you're going to have the backups that one may have animosity toward another guy. Well, why is this guy that plays my position and plays as much as I do getting more time on the camera than I am? I mean, there's just so many.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some combustible elements that can happen with that. It could be a major distraction. And again, I mean, we've seen this with Arizona the last couple of years, even without the cameras, that, again, they start off hot. They might start off, 5-1, 6-0, or, 7-2 or something like that. And then as the season go on, they just start to just crumble and slow down, especially when it comes to, when they have to play the Rams and the 49ers, and things like that. We know the Rams are going to be really good. The 49ers are going to be trying to bounce back. And, I mean, it's going to be tough sledding for Arizona, especially with the situation with Kyler Murray, if it carries throughout the entire season, as if he doesn't get a contract, before training camp. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out.
The Arizona Cardinals will be the in-season Hard Knocks team. What they'll do with that and will it affect them, we'll just have to wait and see. Good to have Preston back. I know his point, kicked him off the computer. It was so hot.
Yeah.
And then finally, to finish off top news, and this was something I was hoping to talk about, but unfortunately this won't air till tomorrow night. Deshaun Watson's accusers will appear on Real Sports with Brian Gumbel Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on HBO for HBO Sports. And they will be discussing about their takes of what happened in these situations and probably with the ongoing civil situation that's going to escalate a little more than we think that it will. So, guys, I know I'm going to try and watch this, and everybody's going to try and have their perspective on it. This question I'll make for each of you, and we'll just start with Chris and work our way down. What's the one thing you want to know about this going forward that will help clear the situation that this has been?
I would say, if I am to watch, I need to know specific, intimate details. Like, how true was this? How real was this? Because a lot of people will probably assume, okay, it's a money grab. All these accusers, they just want some money out of him because he's a rich guy. But at the same time, you had 22 different suits against you. I wonder how deep this actually goes, or how deep it went, and what exactly happened. Do they have actual factual evidence and proof, just saying, he did this at this time, he did this at that time, or this day, that day, how he was, and things like that. So I'm just very interested in getting details about what happened.
Same here. I'll piggyback off Chris. I'm just not being invested either side. I mean, I hope it's not true, but if it is, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because it's just, there's so much there. But I mean, this could be, like Chris said, this could be really deep. I mean, how much was this? I mean, was this corroborated between different people to orchestrate this? Did it really happen? I mean, there's a lot of things. Either way, at the very, very least possible best case scenario, he had poor judgment and just used a ton of different masseuses, which, I mean, that's his prerogative. He's a millionaire. I mean, we're not. So maybe that's the norm. I've never gotten a massage. I don't, I'm not familiar, admittedly, but to me, it's going to be interesting. It's fascinating to see stuff like this, because, we've seen, and this is in no way compared to like an OJ trial or anything like that, but there is the intrigue. There is the what's going to happen, kind of what comes out, and then what happens to Deshaun after that. Do they, based on that, is there a suspension that becomes longer? Do they not reinstate him? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that, based on what comes out, I mean, legality wise, that could go a million different directions. And that's the part that's fascinating to me. I mean, that what happens once everything concludes on the legal side with the NFL.
And let me add something to that. You mentioned what could come out of this and everything, because you're right. I'm pretty sure a lot of players and a lot of people who really have that kind of money, they have their own personal masseuses or massage therapists that they either go to their office or they have them come to their house to personally do their sessions with. And like, if they're on the road or something, they may call them and say, hey, I can fly you here, to do our sessions or whatever. And, they'll pay for them and things like that. So I mean, I'm like, why is he using so many different people or anything like that? And another thing is, what does this do for the Cleveland Browns? Because now, in a way, I kind of see why they still haven't completely gotten rid of Baker Mayfield just yet.
And that's a
Because,
good point.
again, you don't know if Deshaun is going to face a long-term suspension. What's going to happen financially? Because I believe the Browns signed him to a new redid his contract and things like that. So the Browns could be put in a very, very awkward and horrible position if this thing possibly goes back south again.
Yeah.
And this is basically me coming back to this being similar to the Ben Roethlisberger situation, though completely different scenarios. But even though it was a situation where he was found innocent and everything kind of just fell in place for him, he's still suspended regardless. And it's very much seemingly, it's not if, but when Deshaun Watson will be suspended, because I just don't see the NFL not trying to do something about this, not with this many people that have come out and basically within reason knowing that the same story has been implicated. So starting with Chris and going down, I mean, will there be a suspension coming?
I'm going to say, I'm going to go on a word of caution and just say yes, even though he really basically, the Texans kind of suspended themselves, unofficially by sitting them out pretty much the whole season. They kept him as a non-injury, healthy scratch the whole year when they could have played him because he didn't get suspended yet. But I do see a suspension coming, and it could be year long. So that's not out of the realm of possibility.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I would lean toward yes also, just because Roger Goodell seems to be the kind of thinker that even if you were innocent, you still exhibited bad judgment to be in the position. So therefore, we're going to suspend you because of this, right or wrong. That seems like that's how he operates. A person can be completely cleared, and he's still going to give them a suspension. And just think if they did give him a year. I mean, that's 2 years of not playing football for Deshaun Watson. And then you come back, you really don't know what you're going to get with 2 years off. I mean, that's a lot of time to take off. And 1 year is a lot of time to take off. And even then, now you don't really know what you're getting. But 2 years, you really don't know what you're getting. I mean, that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that part, because if he gets found guilty, I mean, can he even play at all? You know what I mean? Like, what if he's convicted of everything? I mean, then they're really like, we gave this guy $250 million guaranteed, and we gave up a lot to get him, and now we still have Baker Mayfield playing quarterback for us. It sucks.
And that's why teams like Miami and Carolina, they kind of backed off because, I mean, they don't know. We don't know how far this is going to go, as far as it's concerned. I mean, I know on the federal side, he was vindicated, but, like you said, the civil suit could still cost them big time. So this could be bad for Deshaun, but it could especially be bad for the Cleveland Browns. They took a major gamble, and they could be the ones with real egg on their face. And Houston looks like a genius now with that trade they pulled off, because they got a lot for them.
And of course, the court of public opinion is the one that's always going to be the one where people have the higher say. And we knew when the situation came out, Deshaun Watson, whatever was going to happen, that the change in his perspective and just his general outlook of just from the public, it was going to change regardless. And that's what's happened at this point. And this story could very well even take that to a darker and even more unpleasant place for Deshaun Watson going forward in the future. We'll have to find out more, and hopefully we'll get in touch and talk a little more about it, but we'll have to wait and see what the accusers say, and of course, let their story be heard, which is one of the most important things going forward.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, guys, we got through our top news. We're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, Derrick Henry is going to dominate 2022. It is our debate of the night. We'll start out with the guys and let them know what their take is. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. It is always great to have everybody in on the show. Joining us tonight is our buddy Chris, the Blue Enforcer of Titans and Truth, and our good friend Preston Penn with one of the most impressive Tennessee Titans collections and memorabilia I have ever seen. Guys, I want to thank you both for being on the show tonight, and I want to make sure everybody has a chance to find you on all your social media platforms to get a chance to follow you. So, Chris, starting with you, please let the fans know where to find you.
Well, y'all know me, Titans and Truth. Y'all can find me on YouTube at Titans and Truth. Also on Facebook, the Titans and Truth official page, and also the TNT Enforcers fan page on Facebook. On Instagram at Titans_N_Truth. And then on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer. That's TNT Blue BLUEN 4CER on Twitter. And that's where you can find all the content. I'll definitely be having some things coming up in the very near future. Right now, just trying to kind of get some personal things taken care of with my equipment. So I will definitely be back later in the off season with more, and got some new things, some new concepts on the way as well. So that's where you can find me. Definitely stay tuned for so much more, because believe me, we're definitely going to go in a whole. We're going to definitely go not just Titan talk, but into different directions, NFL wise, and also talking some other sports as well.
He brings the truth and nothing but the truth. Chris, Blue Enforcer of
So
Titans
help
and
me.
Truth. Still waiting on that Blue Enforcer Titans and Truth Speedo, but we'll talk about that later.
I'll work on it. I'll mock up the design.
I'll
Stay
hold
tuned.
my breath with anticipation.
Stay tuned. He's gonna model it for us all.
Yeah, but I'll let Bishop model that for us.
I'm fearless. I will if you make it.
I'm gonna have to work on that. That might have to.
Now we gotta make this happen. This is gonna be good.
We'll see
If
if we can make this
off,
happen.
that might be interesting.
But Preston, definitely let the fans know where to find you on all your social media platforms.
All right, so I've got a. You can't even probably see this, but I've got a Titans website. I'll just go ahead and show you guys. It's TitansCollection.com. I build it from scratch. Basically, if I can build a website, anybody can, I guess. Basically has a lot of my different collectible stuff on there. Also, on Twitter at the Real Press 10, TheRealPres10. Same on Instagram, and also I have a Titans Instagram as well. It is the Titans Collection. I make 1 or 2 posts a day, and try not to be that person that posts 60 times a day, because I drive me nuts, and I mute them all. But it's there's like you guys both know, with content, there's a balance. You got to know when to post, how much to post, what to post, and it's got to be timely. And it's got to be the camera angle. It's you got to do it right. Facebook, I just under my name Preston Penn. I don't use it as much as I do Twitter and Instagram, especially just because the fan pages are just, oh my God. That's all. Pages are so, it's a wild place. I will say that. But yeah, just come hit me up. I do giveaways from time to time. I've actually got one that started tonight. Just something fun to keep people, excited. I mean, give away something from my collection, or I may pick up something and give it away. And right now I got a Kevin Byard size extra large replica Titans jersey. So that's up right now. If anybody wants to win a free jersey, you fit extra large, that may be for you. So I appreciate all the people that interact with me. I appreciate being on here. Get mostly good interaction. So it's fun being able to talk Titans, talk food, talk dogs, it's a dog. He's just hanging out, licking himself. Just, normal night over here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. But that's how you find me. Just enjoy seeing all the different content, the different people. Like you guys both have good content, and everybody brings something a little bit different. It's you can say the same thing 10 different ways, and it's interesting 10 different ways. Whereas it's regurgitated, a press conference can only be regurgitated so many different ways when you're copying, pasting what Vrabel said, and then it's like, okay, that's great, but give us further thought to it besides just posting the comments, or posting the quote. But yeah, that's how you find me.
Preston Penn trying to hook you up with that new jersey. Check him out. He's trying to give you free stuff, y'all. That's what he's about. All right, guys. Jumping into our evening debate for the night. And, of course, this being the title question for what we are looking at going forward in the offseason. And that is why Derrick Henry will dominate in 2022. And we'll start with Chris and work our way down to Preston. And Chris, I'll let you start with a question. Why will Derrick Henry dominate in 2022?
Well, if he goes back to form and back to the way he was pre-injury, then he will do what Derrick Henry does. The guy is a freaking machine. As I've said it many times on my show, and I'll say it again. The man is not of this world. He is an alien that came from a distant planet that makes super athletes, and he somehow crash landed on Earth. The Henry family adopted him and brought him in, and he became this super heavyweight, superhuman, just unstoppable back that just destroys everything and everybody. Now, the Bengals will say, well, we shut him down, we stopped him. No, Ryan Tannehill stopped us, and things like that. And we knew that, just Derrick Henry being out there was a threat. But I think if he's had time to get back to form, and, we know he's a workout warrior and things like that. Now, there is the question of, does he want a new contract? Is he going to hold out and everything? I've been hearing some of that, which I'm not really going to go too much into that and everything. There's people out there that's going to panic if Derrick Henry don't show up for workouts tomorrow. I don't think that's a big deal. But as long as he's there for training camp and he's fully 100% and ready to go, I mean, as long as the offensive line can do what they can do, Derrick Henry will take care of the rest, and there will be no questions asked, because a lot of people are talking about Jonathan Taylor's the best back in the league. I'm like, no. Until you actually do better than Henry in a full season with Derrick Henry playing a full season, Derrick Henry's still the best back in the league, and there is no second place.
And Preston, I'll let you take the same question.
I would agree completely. I mean, Derrick Henry's the most physically gifted back, maybe most physically gifted player in the entire NFL. And he works like he's not. We've all seen his workouts, the crazy push-ups that Tannehill tried to replicate, just all the hard work. I mean, he could half-ass work, do a half-ass job, and still probably be top 5, top 10 in the league. But he's so driven and so dedicated to his craft that he wants to be the best, that he works harder than anybody, that we see. He works hard. He puts in the work. He's been a good teammate. Until this year, he's been durable. He's been durable. I would say he's still durable, because a foot injury, basically a broken foot, doesn't mean you're not durable. It just means, it happens. You get into this year, if that happened again and he had a nagging injury, then you could say, okay, well, I could see that, I could see what people are talking about. But he's been consistently good, and to be able to get 20 carries in the playoff game, they trusted him. They knew that he was going to wear them down. I'd like to have seen Deontay Foreman get more than 4 carries, but regardless, going back to your question, Derrick, there's no reason why he shouldn't be great like he was. And that's probably the one person other than Brady I wouldn't bet against, because he's got the track record and the work ethic and just the physical gifts. And how is someone going to tell Derrick Henry he can't do something? He is a monster. He just, the way that he works, I mean, it's impressive to see somebody that's that physically talented, naturally talented, to work that hard. Like it's like you and me trying to get at the gym. He is killing himself to not only get back, but to shut every single person up that said you can't do this or you're done. He is dedicated.
And that's the thing. Derrick Henry was already a machine beforehand. Now you're adding motivation that he probably doesn't even need. But now you're hearing everybody talk about, well, is he on the decline, or is this his last year? He can't do it no more. He could be injury prone. This could be it for him. Derrick Henry is hearing this. He may not pay attention to it, but I'm pretty sure that there are people that's bringing it to his attention. Like, there are people out there saying you can't do it anymore, that you're not the back you once was. You don't give a monster machine like that any more added motivation than he already has. So if he's back 100%, which I believe he will be, I kind of do, but don't feel sorry for every single defense he's going to have to go up against.
And I think my whole viewpoint of this is, who can we really compare Derrick Henry to fairly? I can't think of anybody that has played the running back position that I could fairly compare him to, other than maybe a few bits and pieces. You could say a bit of Earl Campbell. You could say a bit of Jim Brown. You could say potentially a little bit of the elusiveness of Barry Sanders. You could say a little bit of Eddie George.
AP.
Yep. Brandon Jacobs. I mean, the guy that's 6'4", 265 that ran like a 4.40. I mean, pieces like that. You see that, it's like, man, this dude is – there's no one you can compare to, just the size, speed, and production.
I mean, if anything, I would compare him more to LeBron James and the athletic standpoint of things. Because I've never seen somebody work the way that he works. I've never seen somebody put in the effort that he does and just have the selflessness to just put team first. That's what Derrick Henry is. And the fact there are people out there that are saying that he's toast, to quote Austin Huff, hell no, he's not toast. He's bacon. He's a bagel with fucking jelly on it. Let's be real about this.
Yep. He's just getting back. He's recooking. He's recooking up a new recipe. So he's kind of just making a little tweak here and there, but recooking the recipe, and it's gonna come out of the oven. It's gonna come out of the oven as it always does, and the running game is gonna be just as good as some perfect barbecue on Memorial Day that I hope to enjoy next week. It'll be great. It'll be just fine.
And my apologies, I cursed, and I'm trying to keep it clean on the show, but that's how upset I am about just these toast analogies coming out.
Oh, you're good. His virgin ears are okay over here.
Right. I'm good too. So I'm good too. It's all right. We keep it real.
I understand, but I try to keep it professional. That's what I'm about. So my apologies out there for those who have sensitive ears. But let's just be honest. Derrick Henry has had one bad season, and it was just where he was hurt. Look throughout his entire career, the man has consistently played at a high level, whether in high school, whether in college, whether being in the NFL. Is it fair to compare him to other players? Is it fair to say that he's going to decline? Well, of course he's going to decline. Hell, some cars decline with age after you take them off the lot. So let's be honest about that. But realistically, somebody that continues to work on themselves and perfect their game and be a student of the game, why should that involve a statistician point of trying to let them know, apparently we're going to fall down, and apparently your stats are going to decline, and apparently you're going to fall off? Derrick Henry is still in his prime. all I can tell you, people, is enjoy it. You're never going to see anything like this again.
For a long time. And I mean, think about this. He went in with the injury as the top rusher in the game at 939 yards in 8 games. The guy still finished, I believe, in the top 5, or I know it was top 10, but definitely top 5 in the league in rushing, and he missed the second half of the year completely. And he still finished as one of the top backs in the league without even playing half the game. So we knew if he had played the whole time, I don't think not only would he have hit 2,000 yards again and been the only guy to hit 2,000 yards twice, he would have been the only guy to hit 2,000 yards back to back. And I don't think it's out of the far-fetched realm to say he wouldn't have just broken the rushing record. I think he would have shattered it.
Agreed. I think he would have just murdered that record beyond belief. And he was very much on pace to break in right around potentially 2,500 yards.
He would have hit 2,200. I think he would have hit 22.
But I guess to finish this debate out, and just for the fun of it, and just to give a little speculation for everybody, what are Derrick Henry's bounce back stats going to be for 2022?
1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to give my actual prediction, and I'm going to say, I'm just going to go high. 1750, and 20 touchdowns. And I'm going to say at the bare minimum, and this is like low floor, 1,250. I'm going to say low floor, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. That's the low bar that I'm setting.
And those are both good answers. And I don't want to be the guy that's like on The Price is Right and go one above Chris. So
1701.
So I think in fairness, I do think there will be a decrease, but because, you have Hassan Haskins, who's probably going to take a good bit of those carries away, which is a good thing. But I could potentially see him getting over 1,550 yards. And touchdown wise, I'd probably say he'll get over about at least 11.
It's not bad. I can go for that. Bounce back year from, the injury and everything. I think he still wins the rushing title at the end of the day, even if, it may not be the 2,000 yards we, all were thinking. But, 1,500 is a very good number. I got no problem with that at all.
So I guess in conclusion to this segment, I think the thing is, like every player that gets injured, we always think that there's going to be a decline. And usually in that case, it's always a steep decline. And that's just an unfortunate situation. We can't blame the player for getting injured. That's just part of playing any kind of sport. The problem is it's always in those situations where people expect them just to fall off the face of the earth like their athletic ability never existed in the first place. Derrick Henry at least has a good 3 or 4 prime years left in him. And for the Tennessee Titans to take advantage of this, and in order to make success of this, is to let the man get his yardage, but also pull the reins back a little when they have to. He doesn't have to be the guy 100% all the time. But if I'm running back coach Tony Dews, I'm definitely going to let Derrick know the best way you can increase your percentage and your numbers is to make more positive runs, make more positive reads.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And I think Hassan Haskins and even Dontrell Hilliard can also help with that because, needing Derrick Henry in week 1, week 2 is one thing. we need Derrick Henry for weeks 15, 16, 17, and playoffs. That's where we need Derrick Henry the most. And you get him to that point, and he stays healthy to that point, that's going to pay major dividends. But also, that means that Ryan Tannehill doesn't need to choke, and he's going to have to help his team out too. And, Burks is going to have to, be effective. And Robert Woods off of injury. These other guys around are going to have to help Derrick Henry because they're going to have to pass the ball a little bit more to not only preserve Derrick Henry and help him out, but make it so sometimes we may have to save Derrick Henry from himself.
And that's a great point. And Chris, I think to finish this off, and it's just going to be kind of a out of the left field kind of question, just to kind of just cool off after this heated debate. But I always like throwing in a fun little question in these just to kind of just cool everyone off. So I guess just to put a different perspective and throw a pitch out of left field, it's always interesting, especially when the overseas games get scheduled. And it's even more interesting when Munich is added into the picture and Mexico City makes a return. So it seems it's not if or when, but potentially how or should there be a Super Bowl that should be played overseas? And Preston, I'll let you take this one first.
I sure hope not. I mean, it's such a draw, and I mean, who are you marketing to if it's overseas? I mean, I think the appeal of it is for, I guess, the rich people. I guess the people that are rich that could probably go there too. But it's just the appeal of having it in the United States and being able to go for a week there.
And that's a fair assessment. And Chris, I'll go ahead and let you take that same question.
I would prefer to stay in the United States. Honestly, I could see it. I'm not saying it will happen, and I'm not saying it should happen. I'm just saying I could see it being a possibility, at least in London. Like in London, I think they would have enough pull to be able to support it. London is still one of the biggest cities in the world. So, and with all of the action that they've gotten when just coming over there for like a couple of games, and the fact that a bunch of people go to a game in London to see the Jaguars tells me I think London could support it. London could be the one city outside of the United States that I think really could support it, and the NFL still makes a boatload of money off of that because they're trying to be more global. I could see it. I don't think it will happen, but it's not bad to dream about it. It's not a terrible possibility. A lot of us ain't gonna fly over there. I mean,
no,
I can't spend 15 hours on a plane. But if I am, I mean, I have a family in outside of London, so I mean, it would be already an expensive trip as it is. I would need to be rich, have all the time off in the world to do it. So,
and I agree with both of you. I mean, market-wise, I'm fine with it being a regular season thing. I think there's appeal overseas. But to simply just take it over and move it across the pond, as they say, it's taken away from the experience here. It's already expensive to try and go to one of these games, let alone mortgage your house to do it. So now you put in a perspective of to take an airplane trip across the pond to watch one of the biggest games in the world. As great as it sounds from a market standpoint, it takes away from your main base here. And I just don't see that as a positive.
I agree. I mean, I looked at when the Super Bowl was in L.A., and I was thinking about going to L.A. because I'm thinking the Titans are going to get to the Super Bowl. And it was crazy, nutty expensive for that. Like just, with hotels, trying to find a flight. Tickets are at the very cheapest for LA. The cheapest tickets was like $5,000. And that's in the upper nosebleeds. So, imagine paying $5,000 for a ticket. You're probably paying almost $2,000 probably for a hotel room for 3 or 4 days. Then you're probably paying over $1,000 for a flight. And you haven't packed a bag. You haven't ate one bit of food. You haven't gotten anywhere around a city. So it's crazy. Super Bowl needs to be more affordable.
And that would be nice, especially at least to the point where people don't have to mortgage off their houses or their cars to do it. Because every year the game gets more expensive. Every year it gets more inclusive. And it just seems like, the most highest of rollers and the viest of IPs are definitely the ones that are getting in, locking out the poor little blue collar guys like you and I trying to get in and watch the game.
Right. We'll be on the outside like, oh, what happened? What happened? Touchdown? Okay. I can't see what's happening.
Man, my bad, guys. I don't know what's going on with my phone. It's been acting crazy. Like all of a sudden it would go completely
Preston, your takes are so hot that the phone can't handle it anymore.
Now I can't hear anybody. It's weird because it's.
I feel the pain.
I know. I'm sorry, Preston. We'll try and get you in. Just keep jumping in. We'll probably get a better reception. I hate that.
Yeah, I know how that feels. I mean, we were on the show last week, and my Wi-Fi was just going in and out and stuff like that. It'll kind of slow down everything. So I know how that feels.
Well, hopefully we can get him in for the last segment. We'll take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, I've got a PSA to do, and unfortunately it's going to be unpleasant for everybody, but it's got to be said. So we'll just catch our breath, and we'll just get it out and put it on the open, and we'll grow from it. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Welcome to the Power Hour. I am your host, Michael Bishop. Hopefully we can get Preston on for this last bit that we're doing, but I definitely want to thank him for coming in and joining the show, giving his intake on everything. I also want to thank Chris, Blue Enforcer of Titans and Truth, for joining us once again. We love having him on the show. He brings some great insight and some great takes. Hopefully we got Preston right here. Preston, if you can hear us, we want to thank you for being on the show. Hopefully we can get you on for this last segment, so hopefully your phone will cooperate. So
you dialing through.
We got that AOL that just keeps dropping them on and off. But if we can get them in, we'll get them in. No problem. But we'll get to our last segment of the night. And unfortunately, this is a public service announcement for all Titans fans. And I know how the A.J. Brown trade has affected everybody. I know it's a sore spot for some people. I know we're trying to move on. And one of the biggest things going forward was the canceled summer camp. And I know that was very upsetting for a lot of people, especially that they paid their money and that their kids were going to get an opportunity to meet the man. But it just didn't work out like that. And unfortunately, they were able to find a replacement. I believe it was Anthony Firster that was going to be taking over the camp. So, he's not with the Titans anymore, but he's still a fan favorite here, and that's fine. There have been situations where teams have done that. But unfortunately, we've had some knuckleheads that have been just unpleasant on social media, sending just derogatory things and just threats even. And I'm just going to give this to you as plain as I can. It's all right to be upset, but threats are unacceptable. You can be mad at the situation. You don't have to like the situation, but don't threaten people about it. The man just did what he wanted to do with his life and improve himself. I will never be mad at a player that wants to get paid. You only got a big window for that. And if you got the opportunity to do it, then do it. And receivers were getting paid left and right, and AJ wanted to get paid. And that's fine. That was his decision. He talked with his agent about that. He fell in love with the Philadelphia culture. I hope it works out for him. But don't go out there and threaten the man or his family just because you're upset over just something little and pedantic. Come on now. And Chris, I'll let you put in your intake with that.
Now, I'm going to say this from I know exactly where I was when the trade went down. I was supposed to do a draft show, but, I was in Florida visiting family since I couldn't be in Vegas. And I see the trade happen, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a lie. Like, this can't be true. And then I look at everything and I see, dag, it is true. They really did trade him. Am I upset that the Titans traded him? Absolutely, I was upset. I was ticked off. I thought, and I still do think, this could be one of the biggest mistakes the Titans make, period. However, if the Titans weren't willing to offer him the money, and it comes out, with TD saying, they offered him $16 million with a chance of it going up to 20. I thought that was lowballing. And I don't blame AJ one bit for wanting out, if that's the case. I would have offered him 20 bare minimum. I said my limit would have been maybe 23. That's about as far as I was gonna go. And yeah, he probably wanted out because he immediately agreed to the contract extension the second he got traded. Now, am I mad that he's gone? Yes. But am I going to threaten the man because of that? No, absolutely not. That is, for people out there, if you're one of the ones that did that and is just all upset and just be like, there's a lot of people that's turned on AJ ever since that. Talk about how, that he was being selfish. He wasn't about the team and all this and that. I'm like, come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on back down to earth. Y'all got to stop all that. Y'all got to stop all that. I know we're hurting. I know we're down with AJ being gone. But, hey, the Titans didn't offer him the money. He wanted more money, more power to him. Good luck in Philly, except when he plays us. And, he better produce for them. Because Philly fans are going to let him have it, and they'll be way worse than us. So, don't threaten the guy like that. I mean, look, the guy, I still am a fan of him, and I'm still going to be a fan of him no matter what. But, we got to move on. And what I think, everybody out there, stop trying to compare Traylon Burks to A.J. Brown, saying Traylon Burks has to be what A.J. Brown was. Yes, he has the same similar skill set as A.J., but he is not A.J. Let him be Traylon Burks. Let him be that. And that's all I got to say about that.
Preston, I'll let you weigh in on your thoughts.
All right, I'm finally back. I turned my Wi-Fi off to see if that worked. It's weird. My phone's been weird. Anyway, so with AJ, I mean, just people threatening, that's crazy anyway. I mean, people threatening a grown man about canceling a football camp is a great role model for kids, right? I mean, make it make sense. He got traded. He's got no obligation to do the football camp here. He still went above and beyond to say, hey, I'm going to try to get you Derrick Henry for this camp. He didn't even have to do that. The fact, I mean, it's ultimately at the end of the day, it's his prerogative whether or not he wants to do the camp here still. Anthony Firkser did, and AJ didn't. I mean, I understand both sides. And I don't think at any point anybody threatening him for any reason is valid, camp or otherwise. I mean, he made a business decision. It's not what fans wanted, but I mean, the Titans ended up getting a pretty decent haul for him. They got another receiver that can hopefully be good. We're due to draft another good receiver. AJ was great, and I think AJ, like Chris said, if he's not great in Philly, he'll know pretty fast. I mean, the fans will let him have it, and the media will let him have it. It's going 1,000 times worse than it was here. He went from maybe the softest media market to maybe the roughest media market. So he wants that $25 million a year. He wants that extra smoke. I mean, he's going to get it, having to deal with the media and having to deal with the expectations of a $25 million a year contract in a major city with a very crazy fan base and a very brash media. I mean, I'm happy for him getting his money. I mean, like Chris said, I was surprised when it got traded. I thought he didn't just get traded, and he did. And after thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? They didn't feel comfortable giving $25 million a year to a player that I don't think they felt could stay fully healthy for to play 17 games a year. Excuse me, I can't keep 16 games. Weird. But to not stay healthy, with possibly 2 bad knees, and who has had some injury concerns, and they just. I think the Titans look at it, they value, okay, well, we can put that money allocated somewhere else. They've got to pay Big Jeff. They've got other players they've got to pay coming up. David Long is coming up. Amani Hooker's coming up next year. I mean, you got a lot of guys that are coming up in the next 2 years you got to make decisions on, and guys that you could allocate that money to. $25 million goes a long way. And as much as it sucked, I mean, looking back, I understand the decision. They just don't value that position that much because of the offense that they run, and they feel like they can put someone else in there to do. If you can get Traylon Burks 4 years for $15 million, that's $10 million less than you're paying AJ for 1 year. So economically, I understand. Did I like it at first? No, but do I understand? Absolutely. It's ultimately it's the team's job to put a good product out there and utilize the dollars as best that they feel. I mean, John Robinson has had a good track record. He's the furthest thing from a moron, and people forget that sometimes when they have like a Jadeveon Clowney type signing or they trade AJ, because we fans, we always know best, right? I mean, we always know that we should sign this person. If it was up to Titans Facebook, we'd have 562 people on the roster, and we would have God knows how much money allocated to them. I mean, that is his job to make the decisions, and for a large part, he's done a really good job. I mean, they've not had a losing season since he's been here, and they've won a couple playoff games. They've made multiple playoff appearances, and a lot of it has been done through the draft. Even with the 2020 draft being overall not very good, considering you got Fulton out of it, basically. I mean, he's done a good job given the circumstances. I think I kind of got off on a whim here, but I do think that I think they ultimately made what they felt was the right decision. And I mean, as a Titans fan, that I support it because I feel like John Robinson does know what he's doing.
Yeah, and it's just the threats are classless, in my honest opinion. If anybody makes a threat on the man, that's just being classless. And I've even got it. I was thinking about going to the Eagles game, and one of my friends who is an Eagles fan is like, nah, you may not want to go to the Eagles game because, they'll be liable to want to fight you.
Definitely don't want that. And both of you bring up great points, and I think to close this one out, I'll go from here. And I guess everybody's saying, where was I when A.J. Brown got traded? I was doing the Draftacular live with 3 other people, and I was the one that caught Adam Schefter breaking it live right then and there on Twitter. I had 3 screens in front of me, so yeah. It didn't get more ground zero than that.
It was a gut punch.
It was. I was at the draft party, and I was, getting ready to go to the bathroom, and I heard people start booing, and I'm like, what are they booing for? And I'm like, they said, AJ just got traded. I said, no, really, what just happened? And they're like, AJ. I was like, all right, I'm going to duck out. So I ended up leaving. At that point, it was a good time to leave because people were starting to get pissed. And this was like a Titans, season ticket member thing. So, yeah, I was trying to duck out before people got real mad and everything. So I just only to sit in traffic for an hour because of road construction on a random Thursday night on 24. That was awesome. But here we are. Yep. But we have less potholes than we did, so I guess that's a win, right? That's a dub. We traded AJ for less potholes. I'm cool.
440 is much better now.
Yes. Indeed.
You know, I even know that from Memphis, and I can understand that because I used to live there. So yeah, 440 and the interstate being fixed up better, I guess, is a win.
Hell yes. I'll trade AJ for that. I mean, do not have to worry about a 5-family pothole you got to worry about anymore. It's good.
Although the traffic still sucks.
Yes.
Well, to finish this segment off, it's understandable why fans are upset. I mean, you have A.J. Brown a year ago come out and say that he suffers from depression and even thought about suicide. So sharing an intimate moment with like that definitely gives you a different perspective from someone, especially who you root for. And that much makes you more connected with him. So that being said, it's understandable why people are upset because you feel like they were vulnerable with you and it was something special. And especially along the lines, he said that he wanted to stay in Tennessee, and I don't doubt that. He's done a lot of great things since he was here. He's been a great ambassador for the Titans while he was here. But like in life, unexpected things happen. Tennessee had needs they needed to fill. They had other positions that they had to bring in. You can't just go out and fill your roster with undrafted free agents. That's just not going to work like that. John Robinson has been a master at unloading players at the right time. Look at Jarrell Casey. Look at Adoree Jackson. Look at Logan Ryan. The man knows when to cut his losses. And with A.J. Brown, it was a situation he knew he could get something for a situation that they couldn't make better. And as for A.J. Brown, I'm fine with him getting paid. I never had a problem with a player getting paid. I will never have a problem with somebody that is in their prime and wants to get their bag, get it. But threats are unacceptable. They're Bush League, and this country's had enough of this crap. I'm tired of people getting upset over a game. And this is what it is, guys. It's a game. We do this to escape real life. And we do this because we're passionate about it. And that's fine. Those are noble pursuits in life. But at the end of the day, if you're threatening human life over something as minuscule as a game, check your priorities.
And not even only a game, but a freaking kids camp, you know, like day camp. I mean, it's even more bizarre.
It's even more classless if you really think about it. I mean, it's just like you said, Bishop. It's unacceptable. That's not. We're supposed to be a first class fan base, and if we act like that, that's not the way we're supposed to carry ourselves. That's not the way the Tennessee Titans. That's not the way us Tennessee Titan fans do things, and we're better than that. We're way better than that. And so, you know, everybody, look, get out of your feelings. It's over. He ain't coming back. He ain't walking back through that door. We got to move on. You know, as much as we don't like it, we got to move on. Although I think the Titans could have gotten more for A.J. Brown, but that's another conversation. But
maybe they did. Maybe with Malik Willis, that was the more.
Maybe it was.
We'll see. Maybe with Kyle Phillips. Maybe that's it. Maybe with any of the players that we drafted with those extra picks. Not everything was as gloom as doom as it seemed. Tennessee filled a lot of viable needs.
Did. Facts.
So along those lines, everybody, it's a game. I understand you're upset. I'm sorry if you bought an H.A. Brown jersey and now you're stuck with it.
I sure am.
Throw it up on the wall. Mail it to him. I'll give you a hint. Mail it to him. He'll sign it and mail it back. Most players do.
That's not a bad idea.
Most players do. Mail it to him. And if you do it like usually before training camp, they'll do it because they're not that busy.
Contact him on Twitter just to make sure, though. Sometimes I've heard horror stories about stuff getting lost. Do that just to be sure. Say, hey, if I send you my jersey, will you sign it? You might get a response. If he says yes, then you got the go ahead. You got the green light.
Pay for that insurance, though.
Absolutely, both ways.
Cover your butt. Pay for the insurance. It's worth it in the long run.
Facts.
So, the Power Hour dropping some knowledge on you. That's why I bring in the experts. That's why you get the best of the best on this show. All right, guys. I want to thank all my guests for joining us on the show tonight. I want to thank you, especially for joining us and watching the show. Because of you, you make it a success, and I keep coming back and I keep doing this. It's because of you I keep doing this. So please, as I say, as always, if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. Make sure you like and subscribe on the way out, and don't forget, I'm giving away a jersey, guys. New Eddie George Mitchell and Ness jersey, giving that away July 1st. So make sure you follow the contest rules. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you hashtag Power Hour Giveaway on Twitter. You're good to go. You're signed up. That's what I do. I'm all about serving you, the fans. And I, of course, want to thank my guests coming on the show tonight, Titans of Truth and Preston Penn, joining us tonight. Guys, I want to give you another chance to shout out to the fans. Let them know where to find you.
Once again, Titans of Truth on YouTube. Usually every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Central Time. I don't think I'm gonna have a show this week. I'll probably have I may have another show coming up in about a couple of weeks. Just trying to put some different things together. So don't worry, I will be returning. Maybe have a couple of shorts. But definitely check me out there. Facebook, the TNT Enforcers fan page, the Titans and Truth official page, where every episode goes. On Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer, and that's Enforcer EN number 4 CER. So that's TNT EN number 4 CER. And on Instagram at Titans_N_Truth. Check me out there. Bishop, it's been an honor. Preston, glad to meet you too.
Glad to meet you, brother. And my information, Twitter and Instagram are the real Preston, THEREALPRES0, and I feel like I'm echoing it. And for Instagram, I also have a Titans Instagram. It's at the Titans Collection, spelled exactly as it's at. And if you're going to see my Titans website, it is at www.titanscollection.com. And I get a preview of that, a hashtag just tip. It's a very skinny show, so check it out. Hit me up. I'm always down to talk Titans. If you have questions about sports memorabilia, cards, whatever, I'm always down. Food, dogs, whatever. I mean, not dogs, but my dog, but maybe your dog too, depending if it's a small dog. But anyway, anything you have questions on memorabilia-wise, shoot me messages. A lot of people do. I'm glad to help out and make sure somebody doesn't get scammed on something.
Guys, once again, thank you for joining me on the show tonight. It's an honor to have you, and we will definitely get you back in once the regular season gets kicked off. Got a lot of great stuff to go after. Got to get you back in for sure. And I want to thank everybody again for watching the show tonight. Thank you for your support. I will be off next week. I will be in Knoxville watching Paul McCartney, so I will be back the following week. So, as I always say, I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. Take care and tighten up.
All right.